Welcome everyone, this is Pilot Needles and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at latest in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Sans Winda.
Hello.
Hello Sans.
Hey, Pineleaf.
Are you excited about Borer?
I am kind of disappointed about Bull Roar right now because I didn't get to see it this week.
Ooh, well there's...
But I'm excited about the next build.
Alright, they are expecting another build next week, so I'll hope that you have an opportunity to log into it.
Me too.
But before we get to Borer, we did actually have a tiny, itsy, bitsy update that was last week, update 34.2.1, where, relating to the Ill Omens event, the Portent of Deafness item now negates a portion of incoming damage rather than reducing it. The percentage of damage affected is the same, so in most cases there is no change. But this adjustment prevents portent items from stacking in unintended ways with some skills and consumable buffs.
Okay.
Alright, so I guess they wanted to make sure that that was fixed before too many people wound up getting them, because I think that the item would have been impossible to get until 12 days into the event unless there was some way around that. As far as I know, you can't get it before the 12th.
Fair.
But so it's good that they fixed it before then. And there were also a couple of tweaks in the localization. And that's it for the latest update, but more important is the Bull Roar build. This is the first preview to update 35, which is called The Return to Carndoom. I guess that's an appropriate name for it. Now, unfortunately, there weren't any actual Carndoom dungeons open for this first build. They're hoping to have the Poison Gardens open, which is one of the small fellowship instances that were in this one, but unfortunately, something happened. QA found something at the last moment. They decided, no, it's not ready. So they pulled it out. So we're going to have to wait till next week. I'm assuming that they're going to have it ready for next week, and maybe they'll have one or two of the others also ready.
That would be pretty cool.
Right, they have 4 instances that they're planning on having. 2 small fellowship ones. One's called Saint Floer, the Poison Gardens. That was the one that they were planning to have this week. And then the second one is Tharisgar, the Vile Apothecary. I guess that's where they brew the potions
really
from the Poison Garden?
Probably.
Yeah. Then, for the full fellowship one, we have Sagroth, the Lair of Vermin. And I have a feeling that one of the types of vermin that they're going to have there is not going to be your favorite.
Yeah, that one's looking less like one that I want to visit. I mean, I haven't actually seen it yet, of course, because it's not yet available. And because I didn't get to log in. But
then the raid is going to be called Guathrenost, the Witch King Citadel.
ooh.
Now, of course, we won't be fighting the Witch King there, since the Witch King was destroyed during the War of the Ring. Since this is after the ring has been destroyed, because after suffering countless setbacks and defeats, the last remnants of the Iron Crown have returned to Carndoom, hoping to wield a lost artifact of the Witch King of Angmar to win dominion over the free peoples of Middle-earth. Aid the Hillmen of the North and their allies in the fight to cast off the Iron Crown once and for all. This update features 3 new instances and a new raid for level 140 players set in a re-imaged Carndoom. Now, I'm wondering, are all of them at 140 or is only the raid at 140? Because I know usually raids are at cap, but very often the Yeah, I'm not sure how to
The
read
others
that.
might scale.
Yeah, well, I guess we're going to have to find that out when the release comes around. Or
What
at
I
least
really
when...
want to know when the release comes around, though, is how likely you are to drop dead if you're Valorant a character and go into this. Because I think that would be really funny with the statues.
Oh, let me see. I'm trying to think. I think my lore master did get up to the point to unlock travel into the area. I don't think I actually went in past the stones, but I do believe that I actually did the quest to unlock it so that I'm able to do so. I guess if I didn't, I'll find out the hard way.
Yeah?
Players who wish to aid in the fight against the Iron Crown should travel to Baal Avrak in Angmar. Baal Avrak can be reached via a stable master in Estilden, Gothforthnear, and the stables of Rivendell. Now, there are probably other ways to get there also, but for the first round of Bulwark, those were the only ones available. And besides, there weren't any instances there anyway available, so I guess there wasn't much reason to go there in the first place.
Fair.
Alright, now, what all did we have in this update? First off, in addition to those instances, they also had updates to damage and mastery. They also had a power revamp, updates to the Warden class, and updates to the Captain class. And they did say that they are planning to have a reset to the traits for, at least for Wardens, and I think probably for Captains also, I'm going to guess. So there is going to be a reset to that. They didn't have it during the first round of Bulwer, but they do plan to have one in time for the final release in there. Right now, they're still tweaking things here and there. So let's see what some of the updates are. First, I'm going to go through the general release notes, then we'll go back and discuss the specific things. First off, for the Brawler mounted combat skill, Reckless Attack, now references the Brawler, not the Bjorning, as the affected class.
Seems good.
Yes, it'd be nice if you could affect your own class, right? Low strike setup and now results in a substantial power restoration effect if it is used with a finisher. This is in addition to existing vulnerability effects if you spec for it. Now, power restoration is something that if a class lacks it, they're probably adding some to it because a lot of these changes are probably going to be in relation to the power updates that they're having, which is why the Bjornings are conspicuously absent from the changelog because
That makes sense.
because
They don't really use power that
no,
much.
they don't use power, right?
They
So
laugh at items that give power bonuses.
they don't need anything that gives power bonus. Burglars, fix an issue causing stealth effect tooltips to incorrectly state that you receive plus 100% critical chance for surprise strike and cunning attack, even if you have not earned the improved sneak trait.
That's good that they fixed it so you're not surprised.
Yeah. And Settle Stab now restores power on a critical hit.
Cool.
Alright. Champions! The stun gained from Athletic now only applies when you are using a damaging melee skill. Okay.
Okay.
I guess someone was trying to do something that didn't do damage to...
Maybe? I'm trying to think, like, what skills the champions have that don't do damage
Yeah.
that would have been triggering a stun.
Yeah, that's
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I hope it wasn't that they were stunning their members of the Fellowship by doing the aha skill or something.
Yeah, I was just trying to think, like, were they like... But can't you only use... Well, I guess maybe you could use that in combat. I've never tried.
Yeah. Well, I would hope no one's ever tried using that skill.
whole fellowship is stunned because you did. That would be really funny, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yes.
Like maybe the champion horn, does that do damage? I know it stuns.
Yeah, but it has its
So,
own
but
stun, so
it has
therefore...
its own stun.
It's-
So maybe it just doesn't waste the stun? I don't know.
yeah. Fervor no longer increases power regen in Redline. Continuous Blood Rage now reduces power cost by minus 75%, now it's by minus 20%, as the old reduction was too impactful. Blue Line trait Second Wind moved to Tier 1 for easy access to other lines. Its upgrades were moved up to T4 to make these more expensive for non-tanks to access. Alright. Okay, Second Wind was made easier to access, and
Yeah, but the upgrades
its
are harder to
upgrades are
access.
harder to access. Okay, I guess that makes some sort of sense.
Yeah, it probably is net similar to the same as if you got all of it before.
Mighty Roar now inflicts physical damage and has been scaled up considerably.
Cool.
And Fixed Fervor Tooltip displaying of skill damage bonus. Alright, that's always good. Guardian. Brutal Charge now only stuns enemies when you are disarming. Use the damaging melee skill. So this is another one that would...
It's another one where you have to use a damaging melee skill to stun enemies. Presumably the Guardians weren't running around stunning their fellowship either, so...
maybe they were trying to stun foes with Let Fly.
Maybe?
And maybe that's the thing, because they said damaging melee skills, so maybe they were stunning people with damaging range skills.
Oh. I guess I could see that.
Yeah.
So now you have to actually be close to them to stun them.
Yes. But then that makes sense for a Guardian. I mean, they're probably just running in
And
and
for a
bashing them with a
champion.
shield or something, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Alright. Hunter. The Hunter one is pretty long.
That is.
Yes. Archer's Mark will no longer overwrite the Master Trapper incoming damage debuff.
Yay.
Heartseeker incoming healing debuff can no longer be cleansed.
Cool.
That's cool unless you're playing a Warg.
Well, okay. Cool for the hunter.
Cool for the Hunter. Not very cool for the Warg, yes. Several changes made mostly to redistribute their power recovery mechanics to make them more accessible across their build options. In other words, things relating to the power changes.
Right. So I don't have too much opinion about this yet because I haven't tested it.
All right. Endurance Stance now reduces power cost by 20% instead of the old 10%. I guess that's a yay.
That might make it useful.
Yes. Press Onward Heal is no longer a percent of max health, but scales with level instead. Alright.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that because the next line explains what this does in effect. Which it should be significantly more powerful for hunters with lower max health, so it's going to help you early game. But it's not as powerful for those with high max health. So...
It might be then that it's more useful. I have a feeling it's designed to be more useful for those for the average hunter, but less useful for those hunters that, oh, let's see if I can have more morale than any other hunter in the game.
Probable. And I'm trying to remember. I think I took Press Onward off my bars a while back, so I traded it for one of the other skills.
Now, Press Onward no longer grants power, but instead grants a run speed buff for 10 seconds, similar to the hunter item set bonus.
Which is making me think maybe I want it again.
I know you're all about the speed.
I mean, it's fun.
And perseverance trait increased, going from 2.55, 7.5, 10%, and instead now it's going to be 10, 15, 20, and 25%.
Cool.
Alright, and what does the perseverance trait do? You don't remember.
Double checking.
Okay, you'll double check. Well, you
It
double.
increases the power and morale gain of Press Onward.
Ah,
Which,
okay, now I
in
understand.
theory, is going to increase the run speed and morale gain.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I guess we have to find out whether or not it affects the run speed, but I presume then because power is being taken off of it is why they increased it. Burn Hot now increases power costs rather than reducing them.
As long as it's still increasing damage?
Yeah, I
that would
think
still
that's
be
the idea.
useful.
I think that's the idea of it, is that when you're running Burn Hot, you're doing a lot more damage, but you're going to be using more power as you're doing it. That does sound like it fits in with the theme of the power updates that they're doing. Bow of the Righteous trait has moved from the blue tree to the red tree at a similar level. Alright. And it now grants an active skill rather than a passive ability. It is now a 15-second buff with a 90-second cooldown that causes all hits with ranged attacks to restore a substantial amount of power.
So, we have, like, another diminishing of our blue tree line. Cool.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Like, they've moved, like, all the really cool blue line stuff to red line now.
Okay, what does Bow of the Righteous do other than giving you power?
Whenever you hit with an attack, you get power back.
Okay, that's its main thing. Maybe they've made it so the blue line is so good with power that it's made redundant.
Maybe?
I mean, that's the only... I mean, otherwise, it sounds rather weird because blue line... I always thought of blue line as a power-saving tree.
Right? And, like, you run and you do stuff on the move. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess we'll find
Maybe
that out.
they just want us to all use red line.
No, that doesn't sound... Because redline, I think, is... Because I think maybe since redline is a power-hungry tree, they might need... I want to guess that they'll be needing it. Needing the power regain skill more than the blue line does. At least that would be the logical reason. But logic doesn't always make it into this.
Fair.
How's this? Red trait, draw weight, max rank reduced by 1. Maximum benefits unchanged, just reached 1 rank earlier. Okay. Improved intent concentration has been moved from Tier 3 to Tier 2 to improve its accessibility to red-yellow trees. Power restore value rebalanced to be significantly better.
Maybe they want us to play red-yellow combo.
Well...
I'm not going to be sad that it's moved earlier, though. That's pretty cool for all of us.
Alright. Strength of the Earth is no longer a channel effect, but a 5-second power over time restore. Upon expiration, it provides plus 10% damage buff for an additional 20 seconds. This trait can now be ranked up to rank 2 for an additional 15% damage bonus on the buff.
Sweet.
And they fixed the buff.
If you're not a warg.
If you're not a warg. Fix a bug where traded strength of the Earth could do damage instead of healing.
That's probably a good thing.
I would hope, yeah. Improved beneath notice power over time restore duration shortened to match the duration of the threat buff. Values rebalanced.
Okay.
Alright, and barrage final cooldown reduced from 15 seconds down to 12.
That's a good start.
Alright. A good start.
I liked it better when it was 0 seconds. But, 12 is still better than 15. Thank you.
Yeah. Alright. Now, for the Lore Master, Water Lore now has an initial healing component. Thank you.
That'll be nice.
Yes. It's like, when I am doing Water Lore, it says, why haven't I healed it? Because I'm expecting there to be an initial healing component. No, I gotta wait.
Uh-huh.
Light of Hope base CD reduced from 30 seconds to 10 seconds.
That'll be cool.
Share the Power cooldown increased to 30 seconds.
In line with the power changes, I suppose.
Yes. And Share the Power Fellowship cooldown increased to 45 seconds. So if you want to share power with the entire fellowship, you gotta wait a little longer.
Yeah, that's kind of a significantly longer time in a fight.
Right. For the Minstrel, the supreme armor of the Vigilant Watcher no longer allows you to go past Tier 5 Snowball, which locked perfect ending. Okay. And increased power costs and healing for Bolster Courage and Triumphant Spirit.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the Runekeeper. Oh, the Runekeeper has as many updates as the Hunter did. The Runekeeper skills can no longer be affected by both disarms and silences.
Yay!
Skills will now be affected by one or the other, or neither in rare cases, but never both. Yes.
Yay! There's much rejoicing.
Yes, much rejoicing over there. And fire skill damage increased 10%, as well as lightning and frost.
Yay, unless you're a warg.
Unless you're a warg, yes. Oh, hey, my Runekeeper rips things apart with lightning as it is.
I'm excited about this. I'm not gonna lie.
And also increased damage for Epic Conclusion, for considerable damage increase, and slight increases for Vivid Imagery.
No, that's a decrease.
Oh, reduced. Oh, yes, you're right. That is a reduction.
That's not as happy.
Oh, that's not. Vivid Imagery is reduced slightly. Fulgative Runestone damage reduced slightly, and Volcanic Runestone damage increase.
That's funny. Okay.
Scribe Sparks damage increased, and attunement generation increased from 1 to 2.
Cool.
Ceaseless Argument cooldown reduced to 0.3 seconds.
Closer to Ceaseless again.
Yes, and the skill execution speed is up slightly.
Nice.
And Static Surge base proc chance increased from 10% to 20%. Alright.
Cool.
And Static Surge now costs 2 attunement, moving you 2 pips towards neutral.
Okay.
And Static Surge area of effect size increased to better match the skill VFX. It looks like the skill hit an enemy. It should now deal damage as you would expect it.
Yay!
Vivid Imagery now sets your attunement to neutral, and its day's duration increased per attunement consumed.
That's kind of interesting. Okay.
Alright. And Frost skills now spend attunement, moving you towards neutral, rather than building battle attunement.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Now spend attunement rather than building battle attunement. Ooh.
Yep. If you want to use your frost skills, you have to go towards neutral.
That sounds.
So maybe you use all fire and lightning. Except maybe not Vivid Imagery.
Well, if you're planning on, if you're getting ready to switch over to healing or something like that, you might do a couple of frost spells so you can do damage while preparing to do that.
Maybe, but you can you have a skill that lets you keep all of your attunement, just flip it all to healing.
Well,
so
yeah,
you can
there's
be
always
instant
that.
Full healing. So.
Okay, you got a point there. Attunement now increases frost damage as your attunement moves away from neutral on both sides of the attunement spectrum.
Now that's where this comes from. So you can do more damage with your frost if you're all the way up. You'll just sacrifice some of the attunement. That's kind of cool.
Okay. Alright, now I see. You can no longer proc harsh debate, thunderous words, or closing remarks while Aftershock is active. These buffs are meant to build into one another, and there was a tendency for harsh debate and thunderous words to proc soon after using Epic Conclusion, combining into closing remarks and overriding Aftershock entirely.
Yep.
And the harsh debate effect granted by the Cardinal essence of debate can now correctly combine with thunderous words into closing remarks.
Cool.
An essence of winter effect debuff can no longer be cleansed. Ooh, another one that can no longer be cleansed.
Good if you're not a warg.
Yeah, good if you're not a warg, right? And the power cost reduction effect has been removed from the overflowing confidence trait.
Power could become a problem.
Yes, and self-motivation's morale heal is now a ratings-based heal rather than a percentage of your max morale.
Aww.
Now, I am going to be going over the Warden and the Captain after the general notes because they're on a separate page because there are just so many changes there. We'll probably just have to give highlights to them since I'm sure they're going to change 5 times before the actual release.
Probably.
Yeah. Crafting! Craftable traceries will now appear in a separate category marked traceries instead of appearing under essences on the crafting menu. Thank you for the logical change. The craftable Dragok armor pieces have had their estate updated so that critical versions are always superior to normal versions.
Yay!
And have their stats updated to reflect modern class roles and statistical needs. And Practice Makes Perfect crafting tutorial quest will now give universal ingredients packs as reward instead of apprentice ingredients packs. Guess that could be useful.
It probably is useful more on their end though, because it just auto changes to universal ingredient packs.
Yeah.
So now instead of auto changing, it'll just be universal ingredient packs.
It's easier for them, and plus, since I always forget to use the apprentice packs, it's probably better for the player too.
I don't think apprentice packs are even a thing though. I don't think I have ever had any.
Okay. Delving.
Right.
Oh.
I think it says even in chat apprentice ingredient packs upgraded to. I might be wrong.
Okay. Let's go into Delvings then. We have fixed an issue where the Delving quest would report completed after turning the gem over to the Delving Stone. The quest now properly reflects the next steps of the quest. It was good that they are now telling you the correct next step.
That is good.
Yes. Delvings are now somewhat easier on tiers 5 through 9. I noticed the omission of 10 on that, so I would presume that means that if you're doing 10, it's supposed to be tough.
Probably.
Yes, which I guess that makes sense. But it does mean, though, that one of the complaints that they've had is that you don't get any decent rewards, or at least they felt you don't get any decent rewards until you're at least 7, I think it is. So that means that some of the ones in that zone then are going to be a little bit easier to do than that are going to get the better rewards. Of course, they don't get the better rewards nearly as well probably as tier 10 does, but 10 is for the top-end players, I guess you'll say. Probably top-end duos are more likely. I don't know. I have a feeling I'm never going to be able to do a tier 10. The difficulty modifiers for enemy damage and health have been reduced for delving tiers 5 to 9. I guess that's what they're doing there. And enemies have had their range for when they are alerted to the players, and the max range they are called for reinforcements greatly reduced from delving tiers 5 through 10. So the reinforcement one even covers the 10 area. removed rotten fruit and lumps of coal from all delving treasure tables.
Yay!
Yes, I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that. Rotten fruit? The delving malice's virulent discharge stab at thee, lingering fear, creeping doom, and festering wound now have caps of 2 stacks per player. And the delving malice effect, daunting disease from diseased foes, is now capped at 1 instance of effect per player.
These sound like good changes.
Yeah. And fix an item with the delving malice diseased foes that caused it to remove less than a point of player's morale pool instead of a third of the player's total morale pool.
I mean, this doesn't sound quite as good for the player, but it's probably more like what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of these things with diseases, I think, is probably because they were thinking that it could probably be too punishing relating to power, since diseases tend to wipe out power, and with the power changes, they probably didn't want that happening.
That makes sense.
All right. Fix an issue with the delving malice disease foes that cause it to remove less. Oh, I already said that one. Okay. Delvings have been added to the school and library at Thomerdine. You must loot the last chest in the instance to receive the delving rewards. We made updates to the school and library at Thomerdine. The quests inside the 3-player instances now reflect what must be done in order to complete the delving.
Good.
And move the trigger point for spawning the monsters inside of the school and library to the edge of the entry vestibule. This will eliminate the chance that you inadvertently spam delving abilities onto the creatures. This will, however, also mean that the delving will fail to be enabled if the stone is not used before leaving the vestibule to kickstart the instance. This all has to do with the way things work in delvings, where in missions that have delvings, they never spawn the mobs until you reach a certain point in there. And unfortunately, it's not always obvious as to where that point is. But because you have the standing stone there, you're expected to interact with the standing stone and select your delving level before you spawn the mobs, because if you spawn the mobs first, then they're not going to have all their delving abilities.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's all related to that. Now, monster play. We'll see whether this is another thing that everybody's happy except the Wargs. And that is monster play. Quests in monster play have been revised to reduce the number of required items for turn-in and to increase the combination rewards for all quests. Additionally, quests for targeting players in the Etmors have increased the rewards significantly. We also we also fixed a long-standing issue where killing Bjornings, Runekeepers, Wardens, and Brawlers would sometimes not count towards specific kill objectives at the locales in the Etmors. In other words, it was only giving you credit for the original classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not for, like, that area. Because there's, like, 2 counters. Like, one for the class, and one for things killed near that area.
Okay. Alright. So, that's something that actually I think will even make the Wargs happy then.
Yep.
Alright. We have added 3 new carry-alls called War Spoils carry-alls for both players and monster players. These will be available for purchase in the LOTRO store. Additionally, monster players can now use the trophy and potion carry-alls.
Cool.
Player quests in the Intermores now reward IAXP for each quest that is completed. Alright, I guess that's useful if you're keeping track of your reward track. Oh, that reminds me. There are only 4 days left. or I guess 3.5 days left for the current rewards track. It'll be reset after that. So if you need to claim anything, this is the time to do it. Alright, that PSA over. Player requests in the Entermoors now. Oh, I already said that. Yes, the first time that you enter into the Entermoors as any monster player character, you will be presented with a brand new tutorial experience that better prepares you for the battle in the Entermoors. Ooh.
That sounds good.
Updated the mines to now have Grodris patrolling the skies when she is not angry. To get her angry, you will need to kill between around 30 to 40 drakelings, or hatchlings within the deepest heart of the Eisen Deep mine. Once angry, Grodris will move to the spot formerly controlled by the Free Folk or Agran forces. She will require a full raid to defeat. Grodris fights in 3 phases. In phase 1, she fights rooted to the ground and does a potent fire breath in a 180-degree arc in front of her. This occurs every 23 seconds. Her second major attack is a wing buffet that will knock players back every 15 or so seconds. And there is also a tail swipe attack that will occur. Right? And if you're knocked into or run over her eggs, they will spawn hatchlings. So positioning is important. In phase 2, Grodris will start to move and will sometimes randomly choose a target in the raid to attack that is not in melee range. Then there will be a fireball. Then there is a wing buffet. Then there is a spinning pounce. And in phase 3, Grodris returns to breathing fire in a cone and doing a significant powerful AoE pulse attack. And on death, the group, players or monster players, scoring the kill gains a buff in the Entermoors for 1 hour. This will likely need to be modified after an hour expires. Grodris will return and the sequence will begin again. So you get a Dragon Slayer buff for an hour?
I guess so.
Okay, now let's go into some quests and instances. Quest barricades in Lothlorien are now correctly nested between their trees. Oh, nestled.
Good.
Yes, okay. Floating braziers in the Houses of Lore have been grounded.
Aw, okay.
Miscellaneous Z fighting in the Hall of Vernazal has been fixed.
Good.
The Arctic Quest, the Courageous Farmhands, now offers rewards for brawlers.
Yeah.
I'm sure that makes a lot of people happy, or at least a lot of brawlers happy. The Breedland Quest, Disease Among Boars, Dangerous Boars, Healing Stores, and Trophies for the Walls now offer rewards for brawlers.
Yay.
And several epic story quests, such as Narkheel Goes South, for example, now offers rewards for brawlers.
Yay, brawlers.
Several Erudluin quests now offer rewards for brawlers.
Yay.
And as well as some Evendim quests, and the introductory quest, Intro the Ritual Stones, now offers rewards for brawlers. The Shire quest, Wolves at Waymeet, Flare for Danger, and Belko's Writ have
rewards for brawlers.
That's right. And brawlers can now get rewards to choose for a Heligrod raid quest, Storvagon the Trader, and appropriate rewards for epic battles.
Yay!
The Evendim quest, the Twilight Estates, Sanctity of Sovereigns, and Monuments of Angmar now offer rewards for every class.
Cool.
Alright. In other words, for brawlers, I don't know, is there another class that didn't have an appropriate reward for that?
Not that I had noticed.
Okay.
I think maybe they got tired of writing for brawlers every time.
Yes, yes. Fixed pickup animation playing twice in Volume 3, Book 6, Chapter 7, Enemies of Old. And Gundabad, the quest category containing quests for the Den of Puglach, Houses of Rest, and the Hidden Hoard of Abanakara in Fate of Gundabad, was previously named Gundabad, which could cause confusion in the quest log with another quest category that shared the same name. It has been renamed to Gundabad: Depths of the Mountain Hold.
Good.
Alright. Adjusted the quest guide parameters for ruffians in Redamore, so it no longer points in the wrong direction.
Yay!
Yeah, I think I did have some troubles with that at one point. Fix the confusion an extra quest ring would cause when looking for Mulder at the beginning of instance Prisoners of the Free People.
Good.
And singing the saplings has been made less confusing. Yay! Removing the always on glow of the saplings, removing the misleading billboard, made the quest guide highlights more specific, and made the distance from which you can see the saplings bigger. Thank you, thank
Yes,
you, thank you,
thank
and
you.
thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
The roads near Herne had a duplicate text string, but now it's been replaced with the correct one. Okay. Quest Fornost, a leader unveiled. This quest level has been reduced from 30 to 26, and it now has a minimum level requirement of 21.
Cool.
Mithril travel to NPCs in the last homely house should now take players directly to the NPC rather than to the door of the last homely house.
Yay!
I think that they're no longer treating it as much as an instance, because I guess it was being treated as a bit of an instance or something like that, so they're taking you to the door, maybe?
That's probable.
Maybe. Scaling quests will now award legendary item XP starting at level 50 instead of level 51.
Good.
Alright, I guess, yeah, that's nice. Level 45 class quest items now show up under class quest item in searches in the auction house.
Good.
And class quest trophy items are now searchable in the auction house under the class quest trophy category. Alright.
Okay.
And now for some general changes. The sails on the boats in Trader's Wharf and Wildwood no longer clip with one another. I'm sure they're happy about that.
Yes.
Floating garden beds in Minas Tirith after battle have been grounded. The two-handed weapon vendors in Estelden, Ostgaruth, Bushford, and the vendor hall in Mickeldelving, Kellendim, Gondaman, Auchere, and Thornenhod now offer battle gauntlets for sale to brawlers.
Good.
Yeah, more stuff for brawlers, I guess. The weapon vendors in the new player's zone of Ereluine now offers battle gauntlets for brawlers, as well as the pre-raid archet. And there is now a brawler vendor in Echad Andestel in Lothlorien.
Good.
And there are now brawler trainers in the training halls in Mickeldelving, the 21st Hall in Moria, the training hall in Galtriv, Gondaman, and Kellendim.
Excellent.
Moria heavy armor vendors now offer brawlers and Bjornings class armor sets.
Nice.
I mean, how long has that been, especially for the Bjornings? Yes.
Right.
Durab Archer and Moria Defiler enemies now have updated and corrected heal induction spells titles instead of placeholders. And how long have they been around? The weapon Shade Paul's defeat now properly goes into the club section of the wardrobe. Right.
Good.
Harthelin in Argonite has posed awkwardly. Now she's carrying a halberd, so the pose makes it more sense.
Cool.
Patrician of Rivendell, Gallant of Rivendell and Exemplar of Rivendell are now correctly classified as event titles. Right? The War Steed skill granting item is now destroyable.
I'm still laughing about this.
Yes. Yes, that's a why. I mean, why would someone want to destroy it?
Probably because they already have their worst steed. That's
Yeah,
the only thing I can think.
Yeah, I can't think of any other reason either. The level 50 to 59 Epic class armor set now have added text that clarifies that their set bonus ends after level 59. Oh, okay. It's nice to know in advance and not be caught by surprise.
Yeah, and it's nice that it sounds like the set bonus ends, not that it will strip you at level 60.
Yeah, I think that was
Hopefully
a change.
it doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah, I think they
It
changed
sounded
it a
like they
couple
changed
updates
that.
ago, yes.
Yeah.
NPCs in Mirkwood who were labeled as barter vendors but didn't actually have anything to barter have now had their barter title, icon, and dialogue removed to reduce confusion. No change
Excellent.
to current barter vendors, though. I did notice all these vendors that you tried to talk to and all that stuff. But, well, why is there no menu? That's because I think they're like giving allies or something like that.
Probable.
Defeat in parts of Yondershire will no longer send the player to Western Eregion. Yeah, that's a little ways off.
Yeah?
Players should no longer fall through the floor when leaving the Erebor homestead provisions. Alright.
Good.
Miscellaneous stuck spots have been fixed. That's always nice. As well as miscellaneous buried floating resources and treasure nodes that have also been fixed. And a radar seam in Entwash Vale has been fixed.
Cool.
Chickens can now travel between the Shire to Cardolan, Angmar to Carbronach to the pits of Stonejaws, and Welkenloft to Cloven Gap.
Cool.
Alright. And the thing about the Shire to Cardolan is especially important in there, seeing how that particular portal area is very close to the farm where you pick up chicken play. DirectX 1011 Water now has soft edges again. Water now also accepts shadows. The Mordor Bjorning Moat raid gear available for barter is now heavy armor rather than medium armor.
Yay.
9. The Slakeless's appearance has been corrected in several locations in the Ironfold, Elder Slade, and Mount Gundabad. What was wrong with his appearance in those places? I guess you don't know. You didn't notice it either.
I'm trying to remember if it had something to do with his teeth or if I'm misremembering which guy this was.
Alright.
Anyway, he didn't quite match the description and looked different.
Oh, why?
He did the last time you had seen him.
Why, his ear wasn't the right color or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. The Bjorning Old Great Axe weapon now appears properly in the Axis section of the wardrobe rather than swords. Well, that makes sense.
Good.
Sets of armor that have a max effect level at which bonuses apply now always display that level in the description. Added a brawler pocket item to the faction reputation items available for sale in Egglane in the Lone Lands. Okay, more stuff to have something useful for brawlers. And the Mossword Healer NPC Iach now is interactable and has potions for sale.
Yay.
Oh, it's always nice that the potion vendor actually has potions, yes?
Yes, that's a very good thing if the potion vendor has potions for sale.
Monsters moderate basic attack and now deal more damage.
Woohoo.
Fixed an issue where brawlers were getting an error when opening Epic Battles Platinum boxes.
Oops.
Maybe because they didn't have anything for brawlers in there?
Probable.
Yes. Brawlers can now barter with Epic Battles vendors for brawler jewelry with brawler-specific set bonuses.
Cool.
Brawler weapons and jewelry are now available for sale in Eminem Reputation vendor Kellegis.
Uh-huh.
And Bjorning jewelry is now available for sale from the Eminem Reputation vendor Kellegis. And brawlers now have armor available for barter in Tinadir in Eminem.
Yay.
All armor available for barter in Tinadir in Eminem is now consistently statted and has been brought up to modern standards. Stats have been increased. Yay! High Enchanter vendor will no longer barter for obsolete relics. Disarm effects can no longer be chained together to extend their duration. When a disarm effect first expires or is removed, it will apply an invisible 15-second immunity period, which will cancel any existing disarm effect. I hope that's true for the enemies as well as us.
I hope so.
Silence effects now have an invisible 15 seconds immunity period like disarms, which begins when an active silence effect is removed or expired. Oh,
Good.
Does that mean that we could go, that when we're doing the Wraith of Water in Fornost, we could actually not be constantly in silence if you're in that water?
That's what it sounds like.
I guess we'll have to test that out at some point.
Definitely.
Yes, base healing has been increased from level 131 to 140. Legendary items providing HPS values have had their values increased by about 25%, and this is intended to improve general healing throughput and help counteract the direct impact from the power changes.
Cool.
And those are the general changes, but there are actually 4 additional areas of updates that they also talked about in their own specific articles. First, they talked about Mastery and Damage buff update. And Mastery is now calculated as a separate multiplier from the rest of the damage mods. I think they're saying that it was causing Mastery to be more affected by diminishing returns because of the way it was being calculated before. In other words, that's supposed to be an improvement. For characters with plus 150 Mastery, a plus 10% damage mod would only appear to increase it by 4%. Now the same mods will increase it by a value much closer to 10%. Yes, so this is actually a buff in there. Some mods directly multiplied damage rather than being treated additively. These were often considered to be the good buffs previously, as they wouldn't be watered down by Mastery or mob mods. These were often not correctly indicated in the UI, and players could only determine their nature through trial and error. We've changed tooltips to make the damage mods more distinct. Alright? Multiplicative and additive damage debuffs and buffs did not have a guaranteed order of operations. This could lead to irregular results if multiple debuffs or buffs of players of both types were present on the entity. The order of operations should no longer be relevant in damage calculations.
Cool.
And it says the bug was rather maddening, as it could play out differently for as any possible combinations of buffs or debuffs. In most cases, it didn't come up, but in raids where a great many buffs and debuffs were present, it could mess the math up substantially, and in ways we couldn't really catch, predict, or fix.
Yep.
Alright. Now for the catch. There's always a catch, isn't there? But it's just a minor one. These calculation changes have required us to go through the game and review pretty much all the player damage mods. Most of them are substantially more effective when calculated this way, so they have reduced a couple of bases in there. So do talk about a number of changes that they made in relation. I'm not going to recite every single one of those. And they
So
all
in theory, it's going to feel similar but look different.
right. Oh well. And anyway, oh, interesting. One item in here that the oppressive darkness is being changed from minus 100% to minus 50%. So if you do stand at Amonsul, you're not going to have that automatic minus 100% debuff on you anymore. It's going to be 50%
Nice.
instead, it looks like. I guess we have to find out how it really goes when. I guess I'll do Amonsul during the next Bulwer to see what it is going on in there, since I'll have to update things in there.
That makes sense.
And now, item special trail food is going from plus 5% to plus 3%. Special trail food 130 from 2.5% to 2%. Now, special trail food, that's cram? Or is that something
Probably.
else? Yeah. Lorian sharpening stones, keen blade from plus 10% to plus 5%, and all sorts of things there. Captain standards of war melee bonus is going from plus 5% to plus 3%.
Looks like these are all the same basic like math principle though.
Yeah.
Where they're more effective now, so they scaled them down to try to get the same feel.
Yeah. And here's one. For the troll, their rampage is being changed from plus 300% to times 3. So that means, because plus 300% would be effectively times 4, assuming we weren't having any other modifiers in the area.
So this will be interesting.
Alright, so anyway, those are the mastery changes. Now, they also have the infamous power revamp that we've been hearing rumors about. Yeah. Alright. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that your power value is going to be a lot higher than it used to be.
Which is good, because everything's going to be costing more.
Yeah, everything's great. Right. So expect some big changes in the power numbers, in the way your stats interact with them. Power regeneration rates, though, you're going to see those go down considerably simply because they're now going to be per second instead of per minute. So if you had a case of where the power regeneration rate is exactly the same, that means you'll see a number now that's divided by 60 from the old value, because they're now going to give by the... And yeah, it was rather confusing because they're giving this to you per minute. Saying, okay, why?
How long do I spend exactly 1 minute in combat to know this?
Yes. Power pools will now be larger, scaling up through the entire endgame. A level 140 character should expect to have a pool about 50k plus.
Cool.
Skill power costs, well, of course, are also now getting scaled up as a result of that, of course. Fate no longer increases in combat power regeneration. It increases your power pool and out of combat power regen. Your in-combat power regen automatically increases with level, but you'll need specific itemization or buffs if you want to increase it further. So, and base in-combat power regen is pretty fast and can fill your entire power bar in less than a minute if you aren't running skills. Lower cost...
If you're stunned? I'm sorry.
Well, if you're...
If you're in combat, you're probably going to be using your skills.
Yeah, you do have a point with that. Lower cost skills will generally break even or cost less than your regen rate. As a result, it's hard to get completely stuck without power or for more than a second, though.
Good.
If you empty out, your pool may find yourself only able to use your less expensive skills until you recover a bit. So
Hey,
therefore,
able to use any skills is an improvement.
yeah, in the past. The idea here then is that most classes are going to have some of their skills that are on the lower end and pretty much just break even. So if you just constantly used those skills only, you're not going to run out of power even in the longest fights. Now, of course, most likely you're going to be wanting to be using more powerful skills at several occasions, and that's something that you have to consider is when to use that. Now the goals. The target time for a player to burn themselves out of power if they are running as hot as they can without any power restoration effects is about 60 to 90 seconds. Longer for tanks, and it's going to be shorter and for the healer. So it'll be about probably around 60 seconds if you're a healer, about 90 seconds if you're a tank, it looks like.
That's like if you didn't treat any power restoration, if you're not using any power restoration buffs.
Right. So if the tank is holding everything well enough, then they might even take on a couple of power restoration skills before going back into taunting, perhaps.
Oh yeah.
And, for example, Burglar's Subtle Stab skill can now restore a chunk of power on a critical hit, and Brawler's Low Strike setup can now cause their finishers to return a substantial amount of power. Not all classes have these mechanics built into them yet, but we're in the process of going through them to make sure that they have adequate tools to help manage power. Potions and food have also been rescaled to work with the new power costs.
Cool.
Alright. That means my cook will need to make sure I have enough power regen food, I guess.
So check this next one. They're not expecting it to be good.
In general, we don't expect power to be a difficult factor for solo landscape combat, as the average pool lasts less than 30 seconds, which shouldn't be enough for any character to run out of power no matter how hard they burn. It can be a challenge if you end up in longer fights, such as when you try to tackle a particularly challenging enemy like an elite master, or kite a large number of mobs for an extended period. It's also
like they've seen me.
Yes. In other words, if you're one of those champions that go around and tries to get every single mob in the area, it's also relatively easy to itemize your power pool to be a fair bit larger if you find that you're running out a little earlier than you'd prefer. So yeah, that's something to be aware of. Now, this is then the reason on why they're also tweaking some of the power drains that are inside of missions is because, or I should say delvings. And that's because if you're in delvings, you're probably going to have some fights that are going to be pushing the limit on this time. Tank builds in general are intended to have lower power costs and should not have to concern themselves with power management to the degree that DPS or healer builds do. Of course, they're more likely to have to contend with instant bosses mechanics that attack power, so they may still require support or gearing to help compensate for those losses. Most of those monster effects have also been rebalanced, so you shouldn't run into cases where your entire power pool is suddenly wiped out by a boss effect, or maybe by a totem.
Right? That's so annoying when that happens.
Yes.
You're like, I'm doing good. I can't do anything.
Oh, Leech Warden. Yes. Yes. While all the classes have had a full first pass done with their skill costs, we're still looking into a lot of feedback from there, so yes, they will be tweaking things in the later builds. Now, to help counter power consumption challenges, healing HPS for allies at levels 131 to 140 is increased by about 25%. This is in addition to any specific changes made to heals, alright? Potions and food, most power restoration values have been rebalanced, but not extensively tested yet, so they're still looking for feedback on that. Concerning Lore Masters, Lore Master is a core class when it comes to power management, so we expect them to be playing with the numbers on related skills and share the power significantly. And pretty much any Lore Master power related skill has been rebalanced. So yeah, a lot going on in there. And they go into some specifics about each class on what they're doing for them. Like, for example, Wardens are getting substantial class rework at this. Yeah, for Wardens and Bjornings, for Wardens and Captains, they're saying they're getting significant rework, so they're talking about them in another area. And of course, for Bjornings, they say still don't have power. And that's power updates in a nutshell. We'll probably go through them again when they have the final version out for the final release notes. Warden changes. And pretty much they've made a lot of changes relating to the gambits. And they've added some new gambits, and they've changed how gambit chains work. And now you can get a little notification on your status on your change, because you do a change, so you do a two-step gambit. And once you do a two-step gambit, that means the next time you do that gives you a chain level 1. Then the next time you do a three-step gambit, doesn't matter what gambit it is, as long as it's a three-step gambit, then it'll bring you to level 2. And then when you do a 4 or 5 gambit, it says that you finished this and puts you into a new state in there, and that goes up on there. So you could have various levels of that going on. So that's quite a bit. And they've made it more consistent for what each of the groups do. For example, Spirit Gambits. Offensive strike through unseen strikes. Gambits in this sequence have improved initial skill damage and deal damage from multiple targets in front of you. So therefore, offensive strike, combination strike, boar's rush, now they all do, and this new thing called unseen strikes. Each of them now have that particular ability in there. So that's something to help quite a bit in there. And now, I should note that whenever we talk about two-part gambits, they're talking about the ones that have two different builders in them. If it has the same builder twice in a row, those don't participate in this.
That is good to know.
Now, they do unlock their own thing, because when you have the 2 in a row, that unlocks the ability to remember a gambit that you've completed. So the next gambit you finish after that, it's remembered, and then you can set it off. That is still in there, and so that's what you're getting from using those same 2 builders, the 2 fists, 2 spears, or 2 shields. They also talk about your various skills and number of changes to the yellow line. In fact, the yellow line is now no longer a specialization one, so they've moved many things around in the yellow tree as a result of that.
Interesting.
And many of the javelin skills have gone bye-bye, which is, like for example, marked target is no longer there. Diminishing target, okay, I never remember to use those, so therefore I guess I'm not going to miss those too much. Shield piercer, critical, and so critical strikes and wages of fear, those 2 I have used quite a bit. So those are gone. Now since they removed dodge this, but what was that skill that kept on popping up every once in a while? Maybe they have a new skill that replaced dodge this, because
maybe
something that comes up in the way that dodge this does still come up when I was playing around with the Warden on Bull Roarer. And it would also give you a signal sound which whenever it was ready to pop up, which didn't happen in the past. So yes, so mainly it is that they've been playing around with it. Now they're also saying that they're expecting to change the Gambit builder so that they no longer cost power. So you could use Gambit builds forever without having to worry about it. And that's nice, especially considering the number of times I've been in a situation where I can't do anything. I can't do a builder, I can't do it, and I can't do dark before dawn because I can't do the builders in order to do that. So that was always an annoying thing, that you needed a gambit completed, a specific gambit completed, in order to be able to restore your power, and you can't do the builders if you're out of power. So it's nice that the builders are likely not to be able, are likely to have almost no or maybe even no power cost at all when they have the next build. We'll have to see that next week perhaps.
That'll be interesting.
Yes.
That would be good if they don't cost much or anything.
And he also included a gambit map for the wardens in here.
Yeah, I was just looking at that and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Ooh. So it has each of the icons for each of the gambits in there, as well as icons in there to go with a key in the front to say, okay, what little bonus they add in there. Now, one thing that I did have trouble with is that one of the gambits that I always used, I think it was Brink of Victory. And I used Brink of Victory quite consistently when I was facing a Shepherd of Filth in order to get rid of their crawlers. And they changed...
That's what that skill was that you were using.
Yeah, that was the skill that I was using. Now, unfortunately, what they've done is, because that particular line... Let's see if I could find it in here. And okay, this skill's in here. You Brink of Victory. Okay, it no longer gives an evade buff, but I didn't care about that. What I cared about was that it used to give a larger instant damage and a smaller tick damage, and now, because of that particular line, is now of a way where it's all about being a dot. It has less of a starting damage and then has a larger build-up in there, and that made it pretty much useless against the Shepherd of Filth.
Oh man.
So now I'm looking for a new skill to use against the Shepherd of Filth. I think
Fair.
it's... And I'm trying to think which one it is. I think I found one that's a four builder gambit that is I'm going to have to use. I think it's always been a good one for it, but the problem is because it's a 4 builder, it's a pain to use against the Shepherd of Filth, because if I'm too slow at doing it, I'm going to get splattered anyway.
Right.
So I think I avoided using it in there. I think it may have... I'm trying to remember which one it is. Because remembering all the names has always been an uphill battle on that. It might have been... I'm trying to think if it was Desolation that it was. I guess I'll find out. Someday I'll write that down. Remember the name. It's the 4 builder gambit in that area. So, but anyway, that's a small rundown on the warrant changes. As for the captain, we really need Krister in order to go over these. So I'm going to hold off on these, and maybe we'll have to discuss this next episode if Krister is able to make it.
I think probably.
Yeah, that way we could see what he thinks about the captain changes, and maybe there'll be some tweaks to him by the time we get on there. Anyway, that's what's on the Borer updates on there, and I'm sure there are plenty other things that are going to be happening on there soon. Now, one thing that I noticed is not in here is the thing about vocations. I thought that they were planning on getting rid of vocations, but vocations were still in the build they were in there. Is that something that's coming next build, or is that something for 35.1? I don't know, but they do not have the changes to the vocations yet. So we'll have to see whether or not that's going to make it into the update or not. But that's it for Borer. And the next little item is that Scenario is going to be doing the next casual stroll, and that's going to be to East Rohan on February 15th. So that'll be 4 days from the date of this recording, and I would presume that will probably be a day or two after posting.
Probably.
And that's also on that update. I believe that's going to be during a time where they're going to have an extended maintenance, because they announced that they're likely going to have an extended maintenance on that particular one. So it's not going to be a quick shut down and come back up as they usually have on the Wednesdays when they don't have updates to the game. They're going to have an extended maintenance in there. So around that time, during noon on Wednesday, you're probably not going to be able to play the game. So you get Scenario is probably going to be running on a on an internal test system, so he doesn't have to worry about the game rules being up when he does it. So he's probably going to be on a private internal server that the testers are going to be needing. That would be my guess on the matter. Or perhaps he could be on Borer even, because Borer is probably going to be up by then, because they're planning to have another Borer preview. And they're hoping to have that up on Tuesday, but I know they have missed that mark on a couple of occasions, so we can't guarantee that. And that's it for our news for the game this week, so let's go into store sales. Sans, what's on sale this week?
Well, this week, you should totally unleash your potential.
Ooh.
You can get 25% off loot box keys, universal solvents, universal morale and power potions, and deed boosts through February 16th.
All right.
And our weekly coupon code is a free plus 100% mark acquisition boost for 6 hours. With the coupon code, get more marks.
Get more marks.
Yeah, get more marks. GETMOREMARKS.
Ah.
That's also good through February 16th.
All right. Then, let's head into our weekend gaming. What were you up to?
This week, I was doing real life stuff for most of the week.
Oh.
And then realized that I had a desire to bring more order to chaos, and did some terraforming and farming in Dragon Quest Builders 2 this afternoon.
All right.
Yeah, so
you said
it was a pretty busy week.
You said real world stuff? I thought you were writing a dissertation.
Well, I mean, that takes a lot of work. And I'm teaching full time, and that takes a lot of work.
Okay.
And we're preparing for standardized testing stuff, and that takes a lot of work.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, it's been a busy week.
All right.
How's your week, Pine Leaf?
All right. Well, my Landrival Warden was studying some ill omens. And for the field trip, we investigated the Restless Dead in Cardalon.
Are they still pretty restless?
Yeah, they're still pretty restless out there. We'll have to quiet them at some point. And for Friday Night Fights, my lore master studied the lore of ill omens. And we currently have 13 supporters on Patreon, and if you'd like to join this illustrious rate of players and help support LOTRO players, you can go to the donation page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. Your money will be used for our podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. If you would like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast@lotrplayers.com. You can also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance. And I'm still saying that despite the fact that was removed. Yes. And the Players Alliance has 2 shows. On Wednesdays at 7 p.m. at US Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. at US Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can join us for our shows at lotrplayers.com/live. And that's all for tonight. And this is Pilot Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.